It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Hey, guess what? His voice is back.
Testing, 1, 2.
It sounds pretty good. It sounds a lot better than when you started the show.
Well, I took some ibuprofen earlier, and about halfway through the show.
No, okay.
And so that's helping a lot. And the caffeine is helping. So I do, and I, this time I wasn't like as sick as I've been in the past. When my voice goes, man, Thursday night, I learned it after I woke up. I sounded about like this when I went to bed Thursday afternoon. And then when I woke up, my wife said something and I went to answer her and it was like, oh my gosh, the transmitter's down. And so, so I thought, okay, I'll jump into the shower, drink some hot liquids, had some coffee, a little soup and everything else. Nothing. And it started to come back around Friday or so. I did feel worse over the weekend than I did on Thursday and Thursday night, but it wasn't anything like I've had in the past. So and nothing really upper respiratory. Little bit of a cough, more of a cough on Friday, but no real fever except for one time for about 20 minutes. And that was about it. And so I'm hopeful it's all behind me. So.
Well, here's what I'm thinking. We've talked about the Democrats and them trying to figure out what went wrong in the election. We're like, it's the issues, you idiots.
Yeah.
You're insane on the issues. That's it. You don't need to go much further than that. And I don't want to get lost because we brought up the Kristen Welker interview, but I want to make sure I get this out because this is my impression over the last probably 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Trump really has been pretty quiet, except for the Welker. He said surrogates talking for him, especially on social media, but he's been quiet. Now, he's been quiet compared to how he was in 2016 and even in 2020. But the thing he's been doing, the imagery of him, of Trudeau coming down to Mar-a-Lago, of Trump being in Paris and world leaders visiting him. Even his interview with Welker, which didn't move the change because there's no change to me move. The election is over.
Right. Exactly.
Now people are wondering what he's going to do.
Right.
But in all of it, even with Welker, I noticed something different in Trump. Trump right now, and part of it has to do with him being disciplined, but even with Welker, he's more authoritative and more calm. He's coming across as a leader.
Yeah, he really is.
The last 10 days I've said, wow. And you could, again, somebody might say, yeah, that's because Biden's so terrible. Well, you may have a point there.
Yeah.
Because Biden was horrible with Syria yesterday.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it instills zero confidence. And then with everything going on Friday, for example, where they were just pounding the White House press corps on Karine Jean-Pierre. They were the Monday before. Was it Monday or Tuesday of last week? They were pounding when on the airplane, but seeing it live, every single reporter kept asking the question over and over again. And we're saying to her, well, I'm asking the same question again because you didn't answer it. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. No, you didn't. And then they rephrase it in a different way. They were driving her crazy, but one of the things is the complete total lack of leadership in the present administration.
Yeah.
And Trump has come in, and we always said, don't talk so much.
Right,
have those points in a presidency when you're just there with other leaders and you say, a couple of words. I think one of the
Right,
biggest
yeah.
mistakes he ever did was speaking at so many of those COVID COVID press conferences.
Right.
Let the doctors lead it.
Right.
Let the doctors lead it. I'll never forget a friend of mine, biggest Trump supporter you could have ever imagined, called me in April of 2020 and said if he doesn't cut it out, he's going to lose the election. Biggest Trump supporter you could have ever found.
Mm-hmm.
She said, and she was furious. And she called me up and she was furious. Tell him to stop. I go, well, I don't have a direct
We don't
line.
have a direct line.
I don't have a direct line to him. But he's really coming across. He's coming across as a leader.
Yeah.
And it's this is the best version of Trump I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And F you if you can't handle it.
Well,
I'm imitating Joe Scarborough from MSNBC. I'm not.
right.
I'm not.
And him defending Joe Biden.
I'm not telling you F you.
No, we'll be doing that in the next segment, though. So, but the one thing that you and I have talked about, or a number of things here that kind of culminate, but there has been a reckoning, I think, probably with the experiences that Donald Trump has had along the way, including 2 recent assassination attempts, but also the political step thrown at him. We said during his first term, look, he talks to the media too often, sometimes, again, to a fault. He would stop outside of, the White House and talk to them. And it's fine. You want to be accessible. You also want to look fearless, but you can answer a question or two and then move on. And you also don't have to do it every time. But then beyond that, again, when he announced he was running in November of 22, that he was running again, he really didn't have that consensus building yet within his own party. He had a strong base. Clearly was going to be the leader in the GOP coming out, but you're going to have to win over the middle and the rest of the GOP. And as things progressed, and we get into January, February of this year, then the issues were coming together, and there was no doubt the consensus was happening for him. And I think with all of that experience, having been president for 4 years, everything, including the Russian collusion hoax, thrown at him, and including the 2 attempted assassinations, I think there has been a reckoning. He hasn't talked about that directly, but you can see it in him. He is a different president going in, far different than he was in 2016, and I think a different president than when he was leaving office the first time in January of 2021.
I think that when he was talking to Welker yesterday, and one of the things, questions, retribution. And, do you believe some of these people should be in jail? And he says, yeah, I do, but that's not my call. And I won't get involved in it. That's up to the Attorney General. If Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, get in, that's their job to clean up, what they see going on there. Mm-hmm. Will I influence them? In no way. But yeah, after what I've gone through, I feel that some of them deserve jail time for what they did because I believe it's illegal, but that's not my call. I went, perfect.
There you go.
Because one of the things, and Jonathan Turley was talking about this, and it's on the same sort of path that we were on. One of the fears the Democrats have right now, because remember, they said that Trump is going to be Hitler, he's going to be Mussolini, he's going to be Lenin. When he turns out not to be that way, they look like idiots, right?
Right.
That's what I think the whole pardon thing is about.
Yeah.
That they want the pardons because then they can say, well, the only reason Trump didn't do it is because he couldn't go anywhere with it because we got the pardon. We protected you from Trump. The only thing is that didn't, look at the polls, that didn't work for Hunter Biden.
Right.
I don't believe it's going to work for anybody else. I believe that the public looks at this and they understand that's the stink, that's the rot of corruption that they're attempting to protect. So I think that's what the Democrats are hoping, but understand that every calculation the Democrats have made over the last year has been wrong.
Yeah.
In running against Trump.
Right.
Every single calculation has been wrong. I don't think this one is going to be right. If that's what they're thinking, Turley was talking about that in his column in thehill.com, that's what they're hoping, that, okay, and he said, and he writes here, the White House is reportedly exploring giving preemptive pardons to Fauci, Schiff, Liz Cheney. Cheney previously declared that this may well be the last real vote you'll ever get to cast. A pardon would preserve her persona as a modern-day Joan of Arc who avoided being burnt at the stake only by the grace of a Biden pardon. Others seem to be panicking that there may be a list of pardoned people but they will be left off. It's called pardon envy. I can't make this stuff up.
I love it.
The only thing worse than not being on a Trump enemies list is not being on a Biden pardon list. Before the election, MSNBC host Al Sharpton and regular Donnie Deutsch warned viewers that they would likely be added to an enemies list. MSNBC host Rachel Maddow told her viewers that, yes, I'm worried about me, but only as much as I'm worried about all of us. Washington Post columnist Jennifer Rubin, man, what a nutcase she's turned into. When crazy that she and others might be omitted from both lists. One has to be somewhat sympathetic to Rubin. To be left both unpardoned and unarrested is to lose all standing among the saved democracy social set.
Wow.
Oh, my, what a great line.
Yeah.
Wow. Rubin once dubbed the Post Republican columnist. Why do they do this? Like Anna Navarro and Rubin, why do they call themselves? They're not close to being Republican.
Do you think, behind closed doors, like, look, we got to call somebody a Republican. You drew the short straw, so you're going to be our Republican. Yeah.
In a podcast, Rubin explained that Biden should pardon thousands. Well, at least she's not up to Keith Olbermann yet. He was at 10 million. To blunt Trump's initial round of revenge from journalists to the little guy and gal counting votes. She advised that he should pardon whole categories of people, to pardon anyone Trump may have identified by name or type, to offer protection from a maniac. And so that's the pressure on Biden right now. Because they know that Trump's not Hitler. They know he's not Mussolini. Yeah. They know he's not going to round up anybody. They know there's not going to be mass arrests. But they also know they can't figure out. They know they've been wrong on every calculation of Trump so far.
Right.
So they don't know what to do. They're like, well, he's not going to do this, and we look like idiots, like we were crying wolf. So if Biden pardons us, we're not doing it, but we get the pardon, and we can say, well, we're protected from Trump because of the pardon. Otherwise, he would have done that. But what they don't realize is people already voted on that and don't believe it.
Yeah.
They already voted on it. They don't believe it.
Right.
And so they're between a rock and a hard place. Because if Biden does it, I think the polling will show the exact same as it did for Hunter. Landslide numbers showing that Biden is protecting corruption.
Well, and what it would, it's a question that when that story first came up from Politico last week, everybody was mocking it, going, whoa, what did all these people do wrong?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, you saw Karine Jean-Pierre said, well, the polling's out there, 64% are for the pardon. It was the reverse.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
She had the number wrong completely.
She thought she was right on that.
Or she knew she was lying and didn't care.
Man, it could be either or with her. She could be flat out wrong or is lying and doesn't care. I'm 50-50 on that. I don't know. Speaking of numbers, I don't know where to go.
Well, we'll say both.
Okay. There's she's lying and she's wrong.
Right.
But the entire thing is that if you're not paying attention to this and all of a sudden that list comes out, the pardons actually happen. The morning of January 19th. Boom. People are going to look at that and go, ooh, what does Biden know about Liz Cheney?
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is that it's because if it's like, well, see, we didn't get, well, no. The question is, what did Biden know about you? Because that's what social media will do forever once that pardon is done, if it does happen.
Well, don't you think that if he pardons Liz, he should pardon Dick too?
I don't know if they have pardons that big.
I just pardon for the...
Because he's the devil, remember.
Well,
according to the left, he's the devil.
Well, remember, the entire thing was the whole of getting her endorsement hurt her. They're like, what was she, after the election, they're going, that was crazy to do that. And now they're talking about giving her a pardon?
Right. Do they think her endorsement was criminal?
That's what it is. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
A record year for enrollment of acreage into USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service programs. NRCS Chief Terry Cosby says over 11 million acres were enrolled in fiscal year 2024. A crossroads between increased conservation program investments and landowner and producer demand for volunteer incentive-based offerings.
We had close to 18,000 new customers that walked through the door. We have those new folks that are wanting to invest in conservation.
The chief adds the combination of Farm Bill and Inflation Reduction Act resources allowed for only 36% of applicants to be funded for implementation of various natural resource conservation practices in FY24, meaning the remaining 64% of applicants
that want to be involved in this. Hopefully, over the next few years, they'll be able to participate also.
I'm Ron Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. We are Red Eye Radio, not it's. We're not it's, we're we. We are Red Eye Radio.
That's debatable.
We've got a great audio cut of the day coming.
Okay. All right.
It's really interesting because it's actually talking to the premier of Alberta, Canada, about oil and everything else and about whether she's a Trump fan.
Mm-hmm.
Really fascinating interview.
All right.
So we'll get to that.
Yeah. We
Coming
love
up
our
here in a
friends in
little
Alberta.
Yep. You saw that Eric Adams now does not rule out becoming a Republican, the mayor of New York.
Well, okay. Look, I understand he's not happy with his party, but I don't know. We have enough Mayor Erics that have turned Republican. Mayor Eric Johnson of Dallas.
Yeah, that's right.
Switched to the. He came on over to the Republican Party. And I get it with Mayor Johnson in Dallas. Mayor Adams sounds like he's running from something, but he's angry with he's definitely upset with his own party, and we get that for sure. A lot of Democrats actually are.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. All right, our first audio cut of the day comes from Trump on Meet the Press.
All right.
Yesterday, where he talks about NATO and whether they're taking advantage of us and whether he would stay in. And I think this is an excellent answer. And the reason I bring this up is because this particular audio cut was posted by Republicans Against Trump. And it says, why is Trump always picking fights with our allies? Here is what he says, okay? And the response was to this comment. Here we go.
I was able to get hundreds of billions of dollars put into NATO just by a tough attitude. I said to the countries, I'm not going to protect you unless you pay. And they started paying. And that amounted to more than $600 billion. That's a big thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be fighting. They wouldn't have any money to fight. If they're paying their bills, and if I think they're treating us fairly, the answer is absolutely, I'd stay with NATO. NATO's taking.
You have a problem with anything there?
Nope.
No. I know. It's just like
It's
like if that's what you're trying to go after him after that's Republicans Against Trump posted that and said, why is he always picking fights with allies?
well.
That seemed reasonable.
Here's what I'd say, or here's what I would ask. I have we go back to the Michael Rappaport thing that over the past several months he's learned the truth, basically. He said the liberals lied to him about everything about Trump. And Charlottesville, everything he didn't realize, they took it out of context. He said, shame on me for that, but the liberals are all liars and everything else, and so he became more of a Trump fan. Well, the media has lied nonstop. I mean, they're still doing it. Is there we asked the question about where does the Democratic Party go from here?
Mm-hmm.
Does the liberal activist media, I don't think they will, but are any of them interested in learning any lessons about how their lies just absolutely had them falling on their own face? You can't carry a lie through about Donald Trump anymore. I mean, it's like everything was exposed November 5th. Now, plenty of people still want to believe the lies and believe he's Hitler, he's a dictator, he's going to round people up, blah, 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 like you said on the whole pardon thing. Well, he wasn't able to do these things because Biden saved us. But I wonder if there's, for anyone in the media, any of these liberal activist media types that realize we can't really do that anymore. We can't get away with it. We can't sell the lie. Not that we don't want to, we just can't sell the lie. I mean, the Washington Post and Jeff Bezos and that whole thing, the LA Times, is there any reckoning whatsoever with them? By the way, I don't think they're relevant either way. I don't think that they can turn it around. Maybe they think they can turn it around. I don't think they're going to be able to, because I don't think it's going to be long lasting, number one. Number two, I don't think it's going to be all of the, in fact, it would be probably only a handful, relatively speaking, of these liberal activist media people that would actually change their tune and realize they can't sell the lie anymore. Not that they don't want to lie. They just can't really do that.
Well, we played Harris's deputy assistant campaign manager, Rob Flaherty, who said Hollywood and the mainstream media can't sell us anymore. They're basically useless.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. And I don't know, are the people that have refused, that drop subscriptions to the Washington Post, New York Times, LA Times, newspapers in general, are they ever coming back?
I don't know that there's anything that can save them, but
yeah, I will say this. I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and I used to subscribe. I used to buy the Buffalo News every day. They turned to as far left as you can imagine. And so slowly over a period of time, I I stop buying it, and the digital I don't buy.
Right.
And I don't miss it. And how many people, and then when my father did it, and I'm talking, my father, the paper in his hand, you think about it, the culture of grabbing that piece of paper. Independent Bob was one of those people that furious about where newspapers have gone because he was into the culture of drinking his coffee and holding on to a newspaper, not a phone. I mean, you and I adapted to phones really quick, just so efficient.
Mm-hmm.
How many people just loved grabbing onto that newspaper, opening it up, drinking their coffee?
Oh, yeah, it was a ritual.
And they did it for decades upon decades upon decades.
It was like Dad holding court in the morning, or
Yes.
when he was doing that.
Yep.
When my dad would be sitting in his chair, usually for my dad, it was he would see some of it, but when he got home from work, he's in number one his chair in the living room, and number two, I mean, it was Dad's going through the paper, keep the noise down.
Yes.
Dad's learning stuff. Things are going on. Dad's got to get caught up. I don't think there is a turnaround. This is what I think Jeff Bezos is wondering with the Washington Post. What do you do? Because it can't be contrived. We talk about, the Republicans who they always say, and this guy's a Republican. Yeah, not really. He's not a conservative. And they always have them, on staff. And then, well, see, he knows, and he's, Joe Scarborough's a Republican, or was. He was never a conservative. You'll never convince me that he was. He still says he is. He says he still is today. But I think,
and a conservative Republican. He said that in the last couple of months.
If Bezos sees something, but I can't tell you what in the world you do with a Washington Post.
Well, look, when Elon Musk took over X, you and I said we don't know the business model. I now know the business model.
Yeah.
I didn't back then.
Yeah.
And it was simply opening it up. I did not know that. I did not know the American public and the world would open up to basically freedom of speech with community notes.
Right.
Because there's a ton of stuff on there that's absolute garbage.
Yeah.
There's going to be when you have a free speech forum.
Right. There's a radio guy that tells everyone he used to play in Aerosmith.
Exactly. And so, but when you see that, and he's driving everyone.
Yeah.
He is driving the establishment media crazy by simply saying, when somebody says, we'll write to him and say, wow, I really got my chance on Twitter. And he keeps saying, you are the media.
Yeah.
You are. He's telling individuals
who's the one
now.
CEO the other day?
You are the media.
A couple of weeks ago, screaming, F words and, you are not the media.
Yeah, exactly. You're the media.
Yeah, you are.
It's driving them absolutely. Think about the arrogance and the elitism to get that angry. Because I look at it and I go, well, you and I looked at it and went, well, no, it is.
Right.
Because the community notes, are just absolutely wonderful. They put people, I think what's happening, they've got regular citizens putting them in their place when they write something that's wrong.
And
they hate that.
And you and I have talked about this. We don't believe people are stupid. You either have the will to go out and find the facts or not. You talked about the group text with, the one person talking about falsely, putting on there the money that United Healthcare was making, and it wasn't right. It wasn't accurate.
Oh yeah, their profit margin.
Their
right,
profit
completely
margin.
wrong.
And you said a simple search. I got the facts and I corrected him. Well, people do that all the time. It seems more people are willing to do that, but they certainly have the ability now more than ever. We've been screaming for years. After the advent of smartphones, it was you got a computer in your hand. So you are the media. You can fact check anything, anybody, anytime.
Well, you and I have been in the media for probably both of us 4 decades.
Right. That's
Or
longer
more.
than I was in Aerosmith.
Or more.
Mm-hmm.
Were you insulted at all when Elon Musk was telling the average person you are the media?
No.
I mean, you would.
No.
I wasn't. I never even thought about
I
it.
loved it.
I couldn't understand. I'm like, these people are going crazy. Oh.
Now, at first
they feel they're a threat to them. Oh.
At first, I thought he had sent me a personal message going, well, thank you. I am the media. Oh, he didn't mean me.
It drives them crazy.
But because it's something you and I have told our audience.
Yep.
And he said it too. You don't have to believe anything. Find the truth for yourself.
Right.
Even if he says something or posts something. That's why community notes is so important.
But you are the media.
Mm-hmm.
I got to say, the community note takes them off. I want to play this audio cut. This is Stuart Varney the other day with Danielle Smith, who is the premier of Alberta in Canada.
Yeah.
Where they make all the oil. And I thought it was just a fascinating conversation. Very, very upbeat. All right, here we go.
All right.
It is. I've been wanting to double our production in Alberta since I got elected a couple of years ago. And America is our best friend and trading partner. We know that we benefit from more oil production. Americans benefit from more oil production because it's the basic feedstock that goes into gasoline, and it allows for Americans to be able to keep those prices low. And we hope that we can find a mutually satisfactory way of going forward so that we can increase our production and build more pipelines.
Do you think that President-elect Trump can exert enough pressure on your Prime Minister, Trudeau, to make that happen, open up that pipeline and get the oil flowing south?
Well, I must say it was actually the U.S. President Joe Biden who canceled the Keystone XL pipeline the day he came into office. There was a willing partner in Canada, not only in Alberta, but also on behalf of our federal government. So I would say that the ball is really in the Americans' court. We stand by ready to help. We know that our particular brand of oil, which is heavy oil, is what your refineries have been retooled to be able to receive. There's not very many places in the world you can get it from. Venezuela and Iraq and Iran, and we think we're a better trading partner and friend than those countries. And so we stand by ready to help, but it will depend on the direction that the U.S. administration takes.
I understand that you're coming to the inauguration in Washington, D.C., January the 20th. Are you a big Trump fan?
I am a fan of our biggest trading partner. It's a $188 billion relationship. We had a great relationship with the previous administration. I know we will have a great relationship with the new administration. I'm coming a bit early, though, because I hear that there's some good inauguration ball parties. So I'll be in on the 18th and stay until the 23rd. I don't want to miss out.
There you go. When she said the previous administration, did she mean Trump and now Trump again? She didn't say current. Because at first I thought, oh, why she just went after her. She made a great point. I'm amazed Varney didn't know that. Canada didn't stop the Keystone Pipeline. It was
No, it was
Biden.
the U.S. Yeah.
Biden who said,
Right.
she corrected him on it.
Right.
Amazed he didn't know that.
Right. There may be Canadians that don't know that, if they support the current Prime Minister of Canada, but, and they're on the left.
Yeah, but he didn't stop it.
He didn't stop that.
No, Biden did.
No, that's a vital part of their economy.
Think about it.
By the
Trudeau-
way, the number one importer of oil to the U.S., Canada. So,
Yeah.
Which
a lot of it gets refined and then goes out.
Sure.
But then again, our refineries make money on that.
Well, and as she mentioned, we're set up for it. We're set up for that heavy oil.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'll tell you, my favorite of the day, we played the audio cut earlier in the show, was Piers Morgan going after, what's his name?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson on the whole transgender thing. And when's he going to drop that? Because he's been saying that for about a year, the whole thing that, what we need to do is maybe we need to have, the levels of hormone leagues, where if the levels of hormone are the same, then people can play against each other. Or, something like if they were all the same weight, or it's just like, shut up.
Right. It's insane.
Yeah, it's just, and he's on the same thing, and he's manic about it. Like, As you said he sounds like Mark Cuban defending Harris.
Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. It's a desperation. It's a very desperate tone coming from otherwise smart people.
Yeah.
And we don't know why.
And
I can't figure that out with Tyson.
What I can't figure out is the sense of desperation to attempt to sell something
right.
that you sense he doesn't even buy.
Right. No, I mean, really, each time that he's done this, he ends up with, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like, we know that.
Then why are you talking?
Exactly. Where are you going with this? And
yeah, we may have to get back to him with the quote from Steve Martin.
Yeah.
From Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah, if you're gonna make an argument,
have a point.
Have a point.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.